The Walking Mountain Science Center invites you to learn about our outdoors and our mountain region. And joining me in the studio today is Peter Suneson, their Community Outreach Coordinator. Good morning, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
And we're talking elk today.
We're talking elk. You know, I was here on Tuesday. We were talking rut season, so I thought we'd, kind of get into that mode. And now I figured we'd celebrate our most iconic, kind of Rocky Mountain wildlife, the elk.
Well, I was just feeling this coat. It's super thick. It's not actually as soft as I would have expected.
And that's a great thing to point out. So this is hair, much more similar to ours than the fur of a dog, a cat, any animal like that. So this is actually, each individual strand is hollow, very similar to our hair. And what that does is that allows air to travel through, and so that acts as an added insulative layer. It also allows water, when it rains, snows, to just cascade off. It doesn't really soak in. So that's, a great thing to point out, and it's an adaptation that is needed for survival out here.
Okay, that's fascinating.
Yep.
And so what else do we have here?
So, I thought it would be interesting to bring in a skull. So obviously, looks similar to a deer skull, moose skull. One of the reasons we know it's an elk is based on size. This is a pretty large skull.
Yes.
This is from a big animal, full-grown bull elk up to 1,000 pounds. Really, really large animals. And then if we look at the teeth, this is another kind of indicator of what this type of animal is, what it may be. It's only got molars, so we know just by looking at its teeth, its jaw, that this is going to be an herbivore. It's going to spend most of its time eating plants, twigs, grasses, stuff like that. And so you can see that would fit right on there. And those teeth are quite significant. It's going to plow through a lot of grass this season.
So what are they going to eat in the winter?
It's a great question. So there, that's why we have lots of open space down kind of the valleys, the lower elevations where there's less snow. They're going to be eating the same things, grasses, twigs, buds, except it's much, much harder for them. One of the reasons we have all the trail closures is to really give them space to feed. They're not going to be burning energy, running from us. They can really do everything they need to conserve energy, to survive all the winter, because you're exactly right. It's tough. There's not a lot to eat.
Yeah, so I've heard the people at the Eagle Valley Land Trust talk about why it's so important to preserve some of these valley spaces for the animals that need to come down in the wintertime.
That's a great, absolutely, and the Land Trust does a great job with that. The West Avon Preserve, the town of Avon's West Avon Preserve, is a huge winter habitat for elk, deer, other animals that are going to be coming down from higher elevations. Right along the river there, the Miller Ranch open space, you see elk there all winter long. So we do have these awesome open spaces in town. It's a great chance to remind folks to, when you do see elk there, it's fantastic. Take your pictures, do them a favor, and give them their space.
Okay, you can't put a little jar on the table without me asking what's in the little jar.
So, we were talking about teeth, what they eat. I thought I'd bring a little bit of an example of what happens after they eat.
Oh, so if you see that on the trail, that's elk
This
scat.
is elk scat, exactly.
Okay.
Kind of the rule of thumb that we teach people to differentiate between elk, deer, and moose scat. If you're going to see a little pellet on the ground, it's going to be an ungulate. Deer scat, white-tailed mule deer, if you take a little pellet, stick it in your nostril, it's going to fall right out. It's not big enough. You find something that might be elk, you stick it in your nostril, it's going to hang right there. It's the perfect size to stick it in your nostril. Moose is going to be a much larger pellet, too big to get anywhere close to
I
get
don't
in your
know.
nostril.
Mark Sassy keeps telling me I have enormous nostrils.
If it doesn't work out for you, Mark Sass would be the perfect kind of test subject.
For the different pellets.
If anyone around the office finds scat, bring it in. Mark will test it out, and he'll tell you what animal it's
That's
from.
such a great thing. Now, one of the things that we were talking about earlier was the fact that I was out on Beaver Creek this weekend, and I saw a group of male deer together, but you say male elk never do that.
Exactly. Male elk are going to be very territorial. They love having their, group of females, their harem around. So they're going to be very, very protective of that group of females. And that's one of the reasons elk grow those huge racks. That's to show the females that, hey, I'm strong, I'm healthy, come look at me. It's also to scare off other males. That's when they're going to buck and clash their antlers, kind of show who's strongest, who deserves all of the females in the group.
Always fascinating, Peter. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
Coming up next, Ashley and I are going to let you know what's coming up on tomorrow's Good Morning Vail.